Welcome to this next session of our DIGIFABS Bootcamp series. In this session, I want to introduce you to the concept of the responsible, dynamic, digital change agent. My name is Dominik, and I'm very happy that you joined me for this session. In this video, I'll go through every single component of this concept: responsible, dynamic, digital, and change. The concept is based on a combination of pre-existing frameworks from the European Union on change, digital transformation, resilience, green transition, and others. We also integrated insights from our research, where we conducted more than 80 interviews with practitioners from SMEs and also from educators to get a more holistic overview of what's currently in need in terms of skills, capabilities for food and beverage SMEs to face the digital transformation. We believe that knowing which capabilities, activities, resources are relevant to shape an organization's digital transformation is crucial to identify potential gaps that an organization might have and to tailor necessary upskilling or recruiting activities. So let's dive in. As I said, I'll go through each of those four components, and we'll start with change. Our interviews showed us that digital transformation is radical change for an organization. But it's not only driven by the technology, but also driven by people. And sometimes we might forget that. Digital transformation, we always talk about the technologies, artificial intelligence or ERP, a new ERP system, customer relationship management systems. But it's change, and it's driven by people, and employees and leaders must embrace this change. Key personal qualities that we saw in the interviews, according to the insights from practice and also from education, are openness and curiosity, adaptability and flexibility, initiative and self-motivation, and collaboration and also interpersonal skills. Because at the end of the day, we work together with other people, with other human beings, and we need to embrace that. So let's talk about change. Change affects both individual behavior and organizational dynamics. There are different models in the literature to explain this on the organizational level, for example, Lewin's three-stage model, or on the individual level, the trans-theoretical model as an example here, which has 5 phases of pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and then maintenance. We know from previous research and also our own research that successful change depends on leadership support, commitment, communication, and engagement with the employees, with your team. This helps overcome resistance and also inertia in the organization and individually. Understanding the psychological and structural factors that affect the people behind the change is crucial for effective implementation and long-term success. In the literature, there's a wide field on change agents, and they have different roles to play to really lead the change and to make sure that the change process is successful. One thing is they need to be convincing. They need to really build trust and encourage others that the change is necessary and it's also beneficial. They need to be leaders. They need to lead the organization, lead the process, and really diagnose all the challenges that might be there and get them out of the way for the employees. They need to be a consultant sometimes to really have inside knowledge, in-depth knowledge of the respective change process that's in place, and also to really help others perceive the potential going forward. They need to make decisions, influence, and also influence decision making, which accelerates the adoption of new ideas. They need to plan and implement effective plans, so a lot of project management here as well, and they need to motivate. So not only convince, but also motivate to really use clear messages, why it makes sense, and really identify the intrinsic motivation of the respective team members. So the change agent is the core of our responsible dynamic digital change agent. There's a lot about flexibility, about methodological processes as well, project management, strategic thinking involved here. And this is the core. With digital, there comes, of course, maybe some other aspects that are not as relevant in other change processes, where it's just about maybe a reorganization, a different location maybe, or something like this. So let's talk a little bit about digital. When it comes to digital technologies, the EU has created a framework which is called DigComp framework. Digital competencies for citizens in this case. And they have 5 areas of this pentagon here. The first one is information and data literacy. When it comes to digital communication, digital data, you need to be able, when you want to work with these technologies, to understand what is in front of you and maybe also how data works. What is data? What types of data are there? And really try to get the right information there. The second point is communication and collaboration. When we work together via digital means or also with digital technology, not as the main communication platform, we still need to be able to communicate and to collaborate via digital platforms. Of course, the COVID pandemic has pushed this quite to the next level all across Europe, all across the world. We all have faced the need to communicate via text messages, via video calls, to collaborate, not being in the same office building anymore, but from home, via Teams, via Zoom, whatever platform you choose. And this is a key component of the digital competence framework from the EU. The third one is digital content creation. This ranges, of course, from being able to create a Word document to a full-blown video like the one that I'm recording right now for you. The fourth one is safety. And this is becoming more and more important in today's world. Cybersecurity is a crucial element, and we need to be aware, or the EU says that its citizens need to be aware of safety components when it comes to digital technologies. Not only when we are on the web, maybe the most there, but also when it comes to planning your production in a digital way. You need to be aware from a product perspective or from a production perspective how you manage the safety or how you ensure the safety of your data and also of your processes, of course. And the last one is problem solving. So troubleshooting, easy troubleshooting when it comes to quick fixes, but overall in the digital world, of course there are always some glitches, there may be some bugs, there are some problems, and these need to be solved. We might not, every one of us, need to be able to solve every single problem, but we need some problem solving competence in order to be able to react and not to freeze in the case of a challenge. When we look at our interviews, we had, of course, a much broader perspective on this as well. Specifically, multiple competencies came up more frequently than others, and I want to go through some of them right now. The first one is technology competence. Of course, as I said at the beginning, when we think about digital technology or digital transformation, the first thing that comes to mind often is the technology component. So, which technology do I want to use? Is it, depending on the current hype, right now maybe most are talking about ChatGPT, artificial intelligence in general. Some years ago maybe it was more, okay, we need more sensors in the production, Industry 4.0, Agriculture 4.0, technology. And of course we need some basic understanding of these technologies and maybe also some basic programming skills to be able to work with different technologies. We need familiarity with modern IT architecture as well to be able to set up the environment around these technologies. Because maybe especially on a side note with AI, and we have touched in some other sessions of the bootcamp more on AI, you of course need data, and that data needs to be stored somewhere. So you need to be able to set up an adequate IT architecture around this. You need data capabilities. Going more into detail there. So you need to be able to search, filter, evaluate, and manage data to support decision making. And data science methodologies to extract insights from large data sets. Touching again, the knowing about emerging technologies. It's a lot about awareness of technological trends, such as AI, but also maybe blockchain and others. Internet of Things, just one more note here. And you need to be able to understand how these innovations impact the digital transformation of your sector. Similar to the DigComp framework, we also have the digital communication and facilitation in our interview results. So you need to be able to translate complex technological concepts into actionable strategies and explain IT-related changes to employees. So it's not about the communication itself, but already linking a little bit to the change agent, you need to be able to communicate what is happening to the team as a change agent or as a digital change agent. And also some basic skills, of course, in general are needed to work with the technologies. Maybe also some specific skills. Prompting often came up in the current environment. That's quite to be expected. Blockchain, automation, and data analytics tools. Names were here like Power BI, Google Analytics, and such. Maybe take the opportunity now for like 2 minutes or so to stop the video at this point and reflect, okay, where do you see currently maybe some gaps in your team's digital skills or in your organization's digital skills? Are there any digital technologies that could help you shape your future and address your business challenges in the upcoming year? And what can you do to improve your role as already a leader in your organization, as a team member in your organization, to improve the organization's digital readiness? All right, let's talk about the third component, dynamic. What do we mean by that? It's quite a broad term. We have two main reasons to introduce or to include a dynamic component in our concept. The first one, the word itself, was mainly oriented at a concept in the literature, in the research field, that is called dynamic capabilities. And it's a theory that refers to an organization's ability to create competitive advantage. Specifically in a world that is volatile, that is uncertain, that is complex, that is ambiguous. And you might have heard this term already, the VUCA world. In such a world, it is crucial for an organization, from the dynamic capabilities perspective, to sense and seize opportunities and to respond to risks and challenges thereby. At the last stage, reconfigure or transform your organization to create value out of that opportunity or that new environment. So these three stages are the core of the dynamic capabilities theory: sensing, seizing, and then transforming, sometimes also called configuring. And this concept has already been linked to digital technologies. In the digital world, with so many different technologies coming out there, and from one technology also so many different products arising from this wide ecosystem that's been tackling the different challenges of different technologies. If we look at AI right now, we have so many different players in the field, and if you try to find a tool for a given purpose, you will find numerous of them online. This phase will probably end at some point, and there will be some kind of consolidation. But right now we have very complex environment, and also very volatile. Some players rise up quickly and then disappear altogether. Some others are more stable and more or less are successful. So for an organization, especially for small and medium-sized organizations, it's crucial to be able to get an overview of this market, to get awareness of this market, to sense this digital environment. And that's where the digital sensing comes in. So digital scouting, digital scenario planning, and also, again here the human aspect, digital mindset crafting. Then once you know, okay, where is the opportunity, what can I do with it, then comes the seizing part, in this case the digital seizing. And here the concept that we present here from a previous study talks about rapid prototyping, balancing digital portfolios, and strategic agility. The strategic part comes up quite often actually in these studies. It's not only, again, about the technology, it's also about the organization, it's about the management, it's about the strategy. And in the last stage we have the digital transforming. So navigating an ecosystem, redesigning internal structures, really changing your organization. Not only changing maybe the tool that you use, but also the processes that you use to create maybe your product. Maybe you have a completely different product altogether. Maybe you change your whole business model. And that is digital transformation. In such a dynamic world, one component that we also want to introduce, or that we also do introduce and include in our concept, is resilience. Resilience is getting more and more important, especially in such a VUCA world. And it's a key competence for our RDDCAs. It's essential for stability in a rapidly changing environment. And here we also have a very interesting concept from the European Union, which is called the LifeComp framework. And the LifeComp framework integrates resilience training and focuses on personal competencies and lifelong learning to really be a resilient individual. But of course, this can also be translated to the organization. It supports adaptation and helps individuals overcome uncertainty, which we have a lot of right now. Managing conflicts and sustaining transformation efforts. And digital transformation is, of course, is a huge change for an organization. The LifeComp framework has three main parts. One is the personal environment, well-being, flexibility, and self-regulation being key here. The second part is the social part, with empathy, communication, collaboration. And you might already see collaboration, communication, these terms come up quite a bit. They are connected throughout the whole concept. And then the third part is, as mentioned on the previous slide already, lifelong learning. Learning to learn and continuing to learn with a growth mindset, critical thinking, and managing to learn. And especially in transformation, in such a volatile world, it's important to not stop learning. You need to continue to learn, you need to continue to sense new opportunities, learn about them, integrate the learnings, and then you are able to seize such opportunities. And that's why we believe that the LifeComp framework with resilience connects very, very nicely to the dynamic component of our concept. Maybe take the opportunity here once more to stop the video for a second and think about your current dynamic capability skill set in your organization, in your team, for yourself. Where do you see maybe gaps? Is your organization set up in a resilient manner? And what can you do in your role to improve sensing, seizing, transforming of your organization? All right, last point, responsible. With the current changes that we see in the world, we need to act responsibly. And the one main point that I want to highlight here is, of course, climate change. And that might affect, or does affect, the food and beverage sector more than others. Each and every one of us on this planet, we need to act responsibly. Also when it comes to digital transformation. And this is maybe sometimes forgotten when it comes to digital technologies. They also, even if they're maybe a little bit more in the cloud or not as tangible as a fruit, as water that's flowing through your hands, digital technologies also have an impact. They are also stored somewhere. There's also energy going into it. And so we want to integrate the responsible part also here. For this, we again have a very good basis in the GreenComp framework. The GreenComp framework, also from the EU, is outlining the skills needed in order to act responsibly for the green transition. And its main points or main parts are fourfold. First, It's about embodying sustainability values. A lot of organizations are already trying to do this with CSR reports, with being more active for the environment, more outspoken when it comes to the environment. And this is one part. The second part is embracing complexity in sustainability. Because of course it is a hugely complex challenge. It's a hugely complex thing, climate change. And that's also why there are so many different simulations and so many different potential outcomes and a lot of uncertainty in it. But what is sure is that climate is changing. And we see the effects, of course, everywhere around us. And embracing this complexity is key. And not oversimplifying it, because that's not going in the right direction. Third part is envisioning a sustainable action or a sustainable future. So what can my organization do in order to be more sustainable? And sustainable, we can also interpret this not just from the ecological part, of course, but also from the social part here as well. And lastly, acting for sustainability. These four things are all needed to act more responsibly overall. And these can also be applied on an individual and on an organizational level. And that's why we really believe that they are a very good fit to the change agents for dynamic and digital. So responsible, dynamic, digital change agent. Digital skills are, of course, also a great way to improve sustainability. It has been shown that AI initiatives, that digital transformation can improve the ecological footprint of a lot of processes. They can reduce waste, so they are a good way, a great way to improve sustainability. But what we need to keep in mind is that there is, of course, also an ecological cost when it comes to digital technologies. And it might already start when you think about how much energy goes into a single prompt or the single prompt calculation when you use ChatGPT versus if you Google something with Google, Ecosia, whatever. There's a huge difference in those two. And just keeping aware of that is already a good way. But also connecting some of your business model transformation and systemic thinking maybe to the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN is also a good way to really get familiar with them and see how the business or your organization fits into the different goals. Holistic system thinking for sustainable food systems, not only in the one small area where one organization might be, but thinking about the whole value chain. And at the end of the day, a systemic transformation in your industry, in your field, towards a more sustainable society. With that, I'd like to come to the conclusion of this session. So, what did we go through in the last couple of minutes? I introduced you to the four main components of our responsible dynamic digital change agent, which is the foundation of this project and is the connecting the dots over the different sessions. We talked about responsibility from the GreenComp framework, dynamic aspects from the LifeComp framework in terms of resilience and the dynamic capabilities to really create competitive advantage as an organization, the digital skills based a little bit on the DigComp framework and more so on the interview results that we had, and in the core, of course, the change agent, the personal, social, methodological skills, a little bit connected to each of these different components that we talked about. I hope this gives you a good overview of what the DIGIFABS project is about. We want to support SMEs in the food and beverage sector by really developing the competencies needed for digital transformation, and especially in the food and beverage sector. We focus on leadership, on change management, integrating aspects for the green transition, for resilience, and for dynamic things, and of course also touching on technological aspects. This project integrates dynamic things, emphasizes adaptability, critical thinking, and problem solving. And we believe that the RDDCA is a great way to encompass all what is needed for responsible change in the dynamic field of the food and beverage sector. Thank you very much for watching. Please follow our journey on any social media that you are interested in, and I'm very happy to see you in the next sessions.